freedom maximalist. It's a scam. What is money? What is Bitcoin? This middleman has the power to print. You want to secure your Bitcoin on a whole nother level. The most scarce asset of the world. Massive bull cycle. 100,000 to 1 million at the end of the cycle. But that's just the beginning. Everybody thinks they are late, you're early. Question things. Why 2% theft every year provide value for the Bitcoin community? Freedom is the possibility to say.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And today we have a special guest from Austria. And just to give you a small introduction about myself, I am a very big student of finances, economics, geopolitics, technology, and history, because all of these things are connecting to one another. And so one day I saw this great interview with the Jeff Booth on a relatively new channel, but already having a great success. And so this interview kickstarted my journey on this platform. And I thought it could be a really great idea to contact the host himself and share my thoughts. So here we are today, Robin Seyr. Welcome to our first episode. It is a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be the first ever podcast guest on your show. And I'm already looking forward when like you in 5 years, 10 years, really big and everybody wants to be on your podcast and I can say I was the first one.
Thank you. I thought you are the perfect one to choose since you are the person who interviewed over 100 different guests. And Robin, could you please share us your background for the people who will be watching this episode, what you are and what do you do?
That's a pretty easy question, but a hard one to answer because I'm at heart a Bitcoiner or a freedom maximalist, I would say, because I really like not being put in one place, not being put in one shelf. I really did not like it, and this even puts back to my childhood when someone said like to me, "Oh, you're the swimmer," because I swam in my past. I did not like that. Not because swimmer is not something good. I never like when someone puts me in like some shelf or something. So I'm always like, I want to be free. I want to be Robin. I want to be a Bitcoiner. I want to be something that is really freeing the society and freeing the minds of something, not the shelf thinking. This is the thing we have to think, and that's the box, and that's the frame we have to think in. Let's think outside of the box. Let's think outside of the shelf even. So that's kind of my mindset, and that's how I also came to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is just like free. Like there's rules, but not rulers. Like you have this rule set, and you can opt in or not. Like Bitcoin is not mandatory; it's optional, and that's a great thing about it. But about my background, I went into stocks when I was early on, made a huge success with Tesla. And after that huge success with Tesla, more people kept asking me about this Bitcoin thing. And I was like, nah, it's a scam. I don't like it. And after, I think 3 years from 2017 to 2020, then I was like, let's look a little bit deeper. I actually wanted to prove a friend wrong who kept asking me about that Bitcoin thing, even though he was not a Bitcoiner, an actual one. And then I was putting my work into Bitcoin, researching about it. Friday, I thought it's a scam. Sunday, I was like, it might be something. Monday, I bought my first Bitcoin. Tuesday, I bought my first ledger. And then 1 year later, I went all in, like all the Tesla stocks I sold, all my other stocks I sold, all my properties, everything I sold, all in Bitcoin. And to this day, I only have Bitcoin. And I mean, of course, like I have a microphone, I have a room, but it's rented. I have a couch that's mine and stuff like that. But other than that, I only own Bitcoin, and that's basically in a quick sense who Robin Seyr is and what I do in Bitcoin. And okay, maybe what I do and do in Bitcoin. 2023, like 1 year after, no, 2 years after I decided to go full in Bitcoin. For me, it was not enough. I wanted to be involved in the community, so I started a Twitter channel. This Twitter channel grew from early 2023 to now, like 1.5 years later, to now 11,000 followers, 11,500 or something like that. And yeah, last year I also started a podcast. Decided in December. The idea of the podcast was actually not a podcast. The idea was just like, oh, let's hang out with Bitcoiners. Let's talk with Bitcoiners. And when we talk with them, let's just record it and put it online. This pretty quickly came to like, I do it every day and I do it quite professionally. And so in February, I was actually able to quit my job and put all my energy, not only my financial energy, but putting all my energy into Bitcoin and Bitcoin only. And this is a great way, and I loved it a lot that I can actually do this now. And yeah, since then I'm all in Bitcoin, and yeah, this is basically my story of why I'm now in Bitcoin and what do I do here.
I've been following you ever since you joined your YouTube platform, and your strict work ethic led to a tremendous amount of growth in such a short time. You have interviewed over 100 bright minds from the Bitcoin space. And so I'm really curious to know, how was this podcasting experience been so far? What did it teach you, and who was some of the most interesting to listen to?
That's an amazing question because I learned a lot. Like, first of all, what did I learn? Bitcoin stuff, of course. Like, Bitcoin stuff is the obvious things. Like, you listen to over 100 Bitcoiners, you learn a lot about Bitcoin, you learn a lot about the technology, about the economics. It's always something new in there. Like, 3, 4 days ago, I made an episode with Wicked about UTXO management. I'm not that technical in Bitcoin, but UTXO management is something really, really, really important. And I learned a lot from that. And I got amazing feedback all from people that are like, oh, really nice. The first video where it was broken down so nicely, and I could actually grasp the whole thing of it, because sometimes it's like in pieces and parts and you have to find in the internet. And I try to do a good job in being the beginner and asking all the beginner questions. But what I learned from the podcast that I did not expect, in hindsight, it's kind of obvious, but I didn't expect when I started, how to ask questions. And this is something amazing. Like, you want, as an interviewer, to get the best out of a person, to get the best out of the person that you are interviewing. You should be able to trigger the best side in that person. And this is what I try to do now with all my podcasts, and I'm getting better in it, and questioning and asking people about their lives, about their beliefs, and what they are doing in Bitcoin. But so that's like the two things I learned a lot: communication and Bitcoin, of course. And a few things stood out to me. And it's funny that for you, the journey also started with Jeff Booth episode, because for me, my podcast journey took a turn when I interviewed Jeff Booth, because this podcast episodes, even though he does not even know it, inspired me to go all in. Because before the Jeff Booth episode, I just did it on the side. And then I was like, what am I doing? I'm full time in Bitcoin with my financial energy. Why I'm not full time in Bitcoin also with my with my time? And that's what I did after that. I made a plan. I quit my job. I tried to figure out finances. I got a sponsor. Now I got 4 sponsors for the podcast. I'm working with companies. I'm working with other creators. I'm working also with my audience, with feedback and stuff like that, with communities, with channel members and stuff like that. So there's a lot going on right now, and the main thing that I'm trying to do is provide value for the Bitcoin community. That's the main thing. Like, if I can provide value and education for the Bitcoin community, and new people do the Bitcoin community and bring more people in, then I will also be rewarded, as I think. And if not, I had a great blast with interviewing people and connecting with people. And it started out as like, oh, I could speak with some people online. And now it's so serious, I will never stop doing it. Like, I will, the day I die is the day where I have my last podcast interview. That's it. There's nothing else to it. I will never retire from interviewing or speaking with interesting people, because this is something so great. I can do it whenever, how long I ever want, and I will do it the whole of my life. And my podcast is just getting started now, and it will go on for a long time. I'm 25 now. Let's say I'm living till 100. I hope so. So the next 75 years, you will be able to listen to me as a podcast host, because I love doing it. And next to the podcast host, I will do weird stuff and do a lot of other things. But I will do the podcast for the rest of my life, because it's a lot of fun, and you meet so many great people. You get so many great inputs. It's hard to summarize that, honestly. Every day you're taking a new guest, every day you're learning something new. And this is actually what I wanted to do. Like, I'm in the process of writing a book about it, and having like, what did I learn from Bitcoin? What did I learn from podcasting? What did I learn from interviewing Bitcoiners? This book will not come out for a long time. It will be a summary of all the things, because I noticed um, people ask me, okay, what do you learn from all those interviews? And it's hard to summarize, because it's so much. It's so much there. I really have to like sit down. What did I learn? And then write everything down, put it in buckets, try to organize it. And yeah, that's basically a short overview, a short rant of my side. Sorry for ranting on for long. But what did I learn? Bitcoin stuff, communication stuff, of course, like social media stuff. And what I also learned is, it's important to speak up. It's important that we as a Bitcoin community take the microphone in our hands and speak the truth. We have to speak that Bitcoin is the future base layer of our financial system. If they don't get it, like, if if you don't come through to your family that Bitcoin is that, they will suffer a lot. Like, not don't do it for yourself, because if if you orange peel 500 people and they're really rich people, this will do nothing to the price. Bitcoin is too big that you can move the price, but you can introduce Bitcoin to people that you love, and those people will benefit from the technology a lot. And so that's what I'm really passionate about, and that's why I make the podcast for so easy as possible. Like, I try to make it digestible. I try to always keep it so everybody can listen to it. It should not be full of technical stuff. It should not be full of insider jokes. It should be, okay, Bitcoin is the future base layer. What does this mean? Bitcoin will be money. What is money? Yeah, money is 50% of all human interaction. Whatever we are doing, 50% of that human interaction is money, and Bitcoin will be that money. And then we can get into, if you want, closer into why is Bitcoin the best money? Why are we choosing Bitcoin? That's like a very long topic, but we can break it down in a simple and short manner. But that's basically my thinking and what I learned. What I also learned is how to speak. I was not as good in speaking in front of the camera. I was not as good in speaking in public in general. Because when you have a podcast, you have to speak. Like, you're the host, you have to speak. There's no chance that you are not speaking. You're forced to speak, and when you do it every day, you get quite good in it. Like, you get more fluid with it. You get more clear with it. Your structures, like, you have ideas in your head. You have like things that you want to get across. And the faster you can get that across, and the easier you can get it across, the better, of course. And that's basically what you will also experience, Mantas, in your journey. You're starting now with the first. Congrats on starting it. Like this, the starting point is the one that's the hardest. And then I can share some statistics with you. Most people, 97%, stop at the third episode, because all of a sudden they see, oh, it's harder than you think. And then the other 3% go to the 20th episode, and after the 20th episode, only 1% is left. So if you are having 20 episodes, you're already in the top 1% of podcasters of all time. And if you have like a podcast that does a weekly upload, you are in the top like 200,000 podcasts on the whole world. Like there are not a lot of podcasts, and there are like every podcast calculated in that. I wish you all the best in your journey, and I think I'm really honored that you made me the first guest of your podcast, because I got to know your experience, and I got to know your pre-work that you did before the podcast, and that's something truly amazing. You did way more pre-work than I did. You are way more motivated to get in the podcast than I was, and you are definitely way more prepared than I was at that time. So I'm already looking forward to what you can do in the next like 1, 2, 3, and 10 years and beyond that with your podcast.
Thank you, Robin. It seems that we are going a very similar path. And since you mentioned your book that it is in your plans to write, and I'm also a very big proponent of education outside the system. And just like having a place to live it there economically, that's why we use Bitcoin. And I've done a lot of research about this technology, and I really came up to the 4 main topics or questions a newcomer could ask. So today, I really want you to break those topics down for us, and so you could put all that complex information into one orange pill. And so the first question being, what is Bitcoin? And I really want you to elaborate about the freedom, because you have mentioned it, you are a freedom maximalist. So what is Bitcoin? How the freedom relates into Bitcoin? And what is Bitcoin for you?
That's an amazing question, and especially when we ask ourselves what is Bitcoin, we even have to get one step back and ask ourselves what is money. And I teased it a little bit before. Money is the 50% of all human interactions. So whenever we have something, we are crafting something, we are producing something, we want to sell that in order to get something else back. And maybe I'm selling classes, and for some reason I want to have a car one day. But it will be really difficult if you collect all the classes, so you can trade in like thousands of classes for one car then. So what we are doing is having some medium of exchange, something in between that you can accept as a node, as something where you can store your financial energy in there, and then you can take this thing and give it for the car in order to exchange the classes with the car. That's basically the job of money. And that's really important that we get down to the basics. Then why is now, like what is Bitcoin? Like what is Bitcoin and why is it a great money? Especially with the freedom aspect. Because when we have now money from the central authorities, when we have money now from the central banks, this money is also money. It does the job kind of, because we are getting the classes sold, we get the fiat money, we get the US dollars, euros, whatever, and then we can buy something from it. But there's a middleman to it, and this middleman has the power to print this money, to issue this money. What happens when they issue the money? The money gets devalued. When there's more of something, the something is less worth. That's basic economics, that's basic principles. The more supply there is, with the same demand, the less the price. If everybody is a haircutter in the world, haircutter haircutter would not be a very lucrative job, because everybody's a haircut and the consumer can choose between so many options. So that's basically it. Like when you have money that's devalued at a rapid pace, the price will drop of that money, or the purchasing power of that money will drop. So what happens? Where does this purchasing power go? This purchasing power goes then to the central bank. When the central bank then has this purchasing power, they can do stuff with it. They can redistribute and stuff like that. But basically, when you use fiat money, you have in between someone who steals your purchasing power. Every time you are holding fiat currencies, you get fiat currencies, and then like after a week, you spend it. In that 1 week, the Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, is stealing from you purchasing power in real time. And then we come back to the freedom aspect, because a free human being does not want to work for the central bank, because everybody who essentially has fiat currencies in their store, they're working in a sense for the central bank. Why? Because they get the fiat currencies, they hold it for a week, and the purchasing power gets less, so they steal the money from it. And money is in some sense time, because it's your financial, it's your life energy, your time that you put in making those classes, and you get money from that back. And some of the time that you spend in there, you spend in there for the central bank. So you're basically, I'm not trying to be extremist, but it's kind of, it's like they are in the power of you, because they have they have the power that you are actually doing that. And that's a really hard thing to comprehend when you are getting told in the school 2% inflation is good. You're getting told in school, yes, and we need inflation to ramp up the economy. Central banks are a great thing, and stuff like that. That's just not true, because they got stolen from it. So how is Bitcoin now coming in there? Why is Bitcoin better? Bitcoin is a perfect store of value, medium of exchange, because you can get it and there's no central authority. There's no one in between. There is a creator of Bitcoin, who is Satoshi Nakamoto, but this creator has no influence. We don't even know if it's a man or a woman. We don't even know if it's one person or a group of people, because he's just not there. And even if he comes back, he has no authority. He has no right. He has no way of manipulating Bitcoin in any way, shape, or form. So that's when we come back from that example. We have something that is limited with the 21 million that most of people are now familiar with. Bitcoin is capped with 21 million units. There will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin. So that's where we have the perfect money, because now I get my financial energy in Bitcoin, and I can get my financial energy back to myself, and nobody steals from me. And this has a lot of implications. This has also the implications that no one can stop you from transacting. When you have fiat currencies, you have a lot of controlling institutes that can prevent you from transacting. If you think the money in the bank account is actually yours, you're mistaken. Because try to do something that the government does not like, and then try to transact money. You will see that the money is not there, that the bank login is not working, whatever. There will be some reason, and there's nothing that, like, if you do something wrong, you should be punished, but it should not be your money. That's your life energy. That's the last thing you should be touched on, because that's the main thing. And if you really want to be free, you don't want to have a money that could be censored by a third party. And a third party could be the government, could be the central bank, could be a local bank. And censored could also be just a mistake. If there is a bug in the system, maybe you don't get your money for 2 weeks because you did nothing wrong. You are a perfectly human being. You're a citizen and do everything what the government says. But then the bank messes up something, and then you don't get your money for 2 weeks because of some mistake, or because you transferred money to a Bitcoin exchange and the Bitcoin exchange has been flagged or whatever. Like there can be so many small reasons. You don't have to rob anyone. You don't have to murder anyone. There can be really small reasons why you all of a sudden cannot access your money. And that's how Bitcoin is actually a perfect way to be free, because you can transact with anyone and nobody can stop you from it. you can hold your financial energy in Bitcoin and nobody can take it away from you. That's it. Like that's the power of Bitcoin. And there are a lot of more nuances to it. We can go in a lot of different directions from here, but that's the basic idea why Bitcoin.
The second question would be how to properly buy it. Are there some important steps to avoid or to know in that process?
There are few things that are universally true no matter where you are. You should never buy from a Bitcoin exchange that also offers other coins. Buy from some exchange that is completely Bitcoin only. Don't buy from some exchange that also does 20,000 other tokens and they're also doing stocks and they're also doing that and that because they are distracted with all of the other things. So like when it comes to buying, buy from an exchange. And how it works, it's pretty easy. Like you make an account there. Sometimes you have to verify yourself. It's also great if you don't have to verify yourself. There are also non-KYC exchanges, this is peer-to-peer exchanges, where you can just literally buy. This is a different process. I will not describe it because it will be a lot more difficult for newcomers and a little bit more fearful for newcomers. I will now just describe the KYC route of things. When you come in a Bitcoin-only exchange, you make an account, let's say with a Bitcoin-only exchange, and then you make this account, and you basically have to transfer money there. You just have to find a way. Okay, I have a Fiat bank account, and then I transfer money there. And in that account, you then can buy Bitcoin with it. Every exchange is a little bit differently designed, but basically it's pretty simple in the account once you're in there. Once you have those Bitcoin, this is not the hard part. That's just like, okay, figure out what exchange is available in my country, what exchange is Bitcoin only, and how can I then buy with that exchange the best way. What I would also give for everyone as a tip, when the exchange has his own token, avoid it. Those exchanges like FTX are usually not secure. They are playing around with his own token. They're using it. They're making stuff with it. So I would always suggest don't go with an exchange that has a token. Go with a Bitcoin only exchange. And once you have figured out what exchange is available in your country, because in different countries there are different exchanges available, then when you have figured that out, then you can actually go ahead and store them. But is there anything you want to add in the buying department?
I really want to talk about the holding of Bitcoin, which is the third topic, and that fits perfectly into the subject. And so 2022 was the biggest year ever for crypto theft in general, with 3.7 billion in stolen assets and 1.7 in 2023. So this brings me to my next question, which is how to store Bitcoin. What are some of the worst and best options for your coin holdings? I think this is a crucial step in the process.
That's that's the most crucial step in the process. Like buying Bitcoin is important, but how to store properly your Bitcoin is even more important. That's why, like, one more thing to add in the buying Bitcoin. Take an exchange where you can actually withdraw your Bitcoin. There are some exchanges out there where you cannot withdraw your Bitcoin, but you should always be able to withdraw your Bitcoin. And if it's a Bitcoin only exchange, you're probably fine. Like a Bitcoin only exchange will always allow you to withdraw your Bitcoin. But there are some exchanges. I think like Robinhood or something like that. They were not being letting the customers exchange their funds only in US dollars. But maybe they have changed it. I don't know. But make sure you can actually withdraw your own Bitcoin, because other than that, you can also buy a Bitcoin ETF, which I will not recommend. Then you have to figure out how much value do you have in Bitcoin. And I will just make it now with like May 2024. If you have €1,000 or more in Bitcoin, you have to like, okay, let's break it down really simple. There is self-custodial solutions and custodian solutions. In the self-custodial solutions is where you yourself keep your keys, where you hold the keys of the Bitcoin. In the other solution of the custodians, where you don't hold your own keys, someone else holds the keys. And you want to be in a situation where you hold your own keys. Until €1,000 or $1,000, right around that mark, it's okay in my perspective to keep it on exchange because it's not a big amount. It's like it's an amount where you can keep it on exchange. There are also software wallets you can use where you can take your own keys and put it on exchange, where you have a self-custodial wallet, but you hold your own keys. That's a great way too. But basically, you want to really hold your own keys if you have more than €1,000 in your Bitcoin. And Bitcoiners that are coming in, the €1,000, I feel like most people come to at some point. If they have like a job and they earn something, they can have like maybe €100 per month to save in. Maybe somebody even has like €500. At some point, they will come to this €1,000 mark. And then you can choose a hardware wallet. There are a lot of different options. There's like Bitbox, there's a COLDCARD, there's like at least like 5-10 great solutions out there, with Treasure also. There are really a lot of different solutions out there. And it's important to make your own mind up. Let's figure out what solutions do you want in your buying Bitcoin and storing Bitcoin department. But this is a crucial point. Like, you have this device and you can store your Bitcoin in there. You don't really store your Bitcoin in there. You just store your private keys in there where you can access then your Bitcoin from. Once you have done that, you're really good off. Like, you are even ahead of like 80% or 70% of all Bitcoin hodlers, because most of them keep the Bitcoin on exchange. What you can do then, if you have 50,000 or 100,000 or maybe even above 10,000, but especially if you have over 50,000, 100,000 or 500,000 US dollars of fiat in Bitcoin stored, so you have multiple Bitcoins at this point, then you should really think of a multi-signature solution where you have not one key to get into your Bitcoin, but you have 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 keys to access your Bitcoin. And how this works is also pretty basic and pretty simple. You have, for example, 3 keys, like you have 3 of those Bitboxes, and with 2 of them, once you have 2 of them, you can move it. This allows you to spread out geographically your keys. So you only have 1 key at your house, for example. And when someone comes to your house and says, with like a glass in his hand, and he's like, "Give me your Bitcoin or I will destroy you," or something like that, then you can say, "Yes, but I only have 1 key here. Sorry, I cannot give you my Bitcoin even if I want to." So you want to protect yourself from a $5 wrench attack, as we say. You want to protect yourself. Even if someone comes to your house and says, "Give me your Bitcoin," you don't even can. Yeah, like, you don't have the power to give him your Bitcoin. It's simply not there. So once you are at the higher level of Bitcoin, like you have a lot of Bitcoin, you want to secure your Bitcoin on a whole nother level. So this is what I recommend everybody with like multiple keys. Maybe you can make even like 5, leave 1 at home, have 1 in your phone maybe, and then you have 1 at a bank vault, you have 1 at another bank vault, or some friend, or maybe even some a foreign friend at a whole different country. There are a lot of different options that you can actually do. And every situation is different. Everybody is different. So figure out once you have a Bitcoin in self custody. If you don't have it in self custody, your attack vector is really open. Like people can just come in, steal your Bitcoin through a username and password. It's so easy. And so many, by far the most people lose their Bitcoin in exact that way because they have a username and password, two-factor authentication, and they keep it on exchange. They just simply get hacked. It's so easy these days. So keep it offline. Keep your keys offline. And then one thing I did not mention till now, once you have your keys, then you should still be able to retrieve your keys. And that's why I recommend get a metal plate backup. Get some backup of your keys where you are always able to back up your keys from. Because if the device breaks, and all electronic devices can break, you still have the backup seed phrase. These are 12 to 24 words. With those, you can also access your key. So this is, I hope I did a great job in giving an overview of the different solutions and what you can do. And this is what I would recommend for people that get started.
Indeed, you did, really, because this is so important step, and people have to do their own due diligence on the subject. So I would only add to that you have to do your research. All of that Robin just said, I completely and absolutely agree. You have to take self-custody and look for your own options and not leaving your Bitcoin on the exchanges. And, this is the way to go. And so now when we talked about Bitcoin, how to buy it and how to store it, I believe the last topic about that is having a plan and strategy. And so if you are a captain of the best ship in the world, but you are floating in the middle of the ocean without any direction to go, the pirates eventually will get you, just like will they get your Bitcoin off the exchanges. And so I want you to walk us through and construct us a plan, a simple, definite, clear plan or strategy for the newcomers, because there's a lot of volatility in the market. And I really want you to construct that tool for us so we can withhold the volatility waves, and also just to add to that, what are the most common mistakes and time-proven strategies?
That's pretty simple, and those are the rules most Bitcoiners are preaching. First of all, like before we get into this, I want to just note this one thing. Bitcoin community is all about trust, not verify. Whatever you are doing in the Bitcoin community, trust is not necessary. You can verify everything. You can verify if a hardware wallet is good. You can verify if what I'm saying is correct or not. You can actually check it on the internet and you can do your own research. And this is the ethos of Bitcoin, of the Bitcoin community. Don't trust me, just verify the things that I'm saying and come to your own conclusions. Maybe you come to a different conclusion because your life situation is differently. And that's what I'm also want to add before I start to have my strategy with Bitcoin. Make your own research and find out your own strategy, because if you just adopt the strategy of someone else, this strategy will not be anchored in your head. You have to research about your strategy and you have to make sure your strategy is really good for the long run. And it's a strategy that you can live by. So don't trust me, just verify and make your own strategy. But for me, what I am always doing is thinking long term. I would never buy an asset. I would never have anything that is not there for at least a decade. Like if I'm not buying, like if I buy something, so let's put it that way. If I'm not comfortable in buying an asset and falling asleep for the next 10 years, I would not buy it. Like, let's say I'm falling asleep tomorrow for the next 10 years. What assets would I buy? I would buy Bitcoin because I'm fairly certain that Bitcoin will still be there. Is a stock there in 10 years? It might be not, because might be the CEO might change something. The management team might be bad. Do I put it in real estate? Maybe the area gets really bad. Maybe the politicians in the area make some weird things with the properties there. So I feel not comfortable buying real estate for 10 years because they might do something. There are so many other options. Do I keep it in US dollars? No, because I guaranteed lose money. So whatever you are doing, consider a long-term strategy. Consider buying it for 10, 20, 50 lifetime long things. And that's what I also do with Bitcoin. I am holding now, I'm like only buying since 4 years, and I'm just getting started with Bitcoin. Like I'm not a long-term hodler. The long-term hodlers are in there for a longer time. They're like 10 years in. And I will not sell any Bitcoin till Bitcoin is the base layer of our financial system and I can buy products and services with Bitcoin. And that's my strategy. But you can have a different strategy. And maybe you're like, oh, I want to find out what Bitcoin is all about, and I will buy it and I will hold on the next 5 years. That's fine. If you don't plan to hold it at least 5 years, don't buy Bitcoin. It's not for you. If you want to day trade with something else. Bitcoin is not for you. Bitcoin is for the hodlers. Bitcoin is for the savers of this world. So whenever you're thinking of buying something, whenever you're thinking of Bitcoin, think long term. Lower your time preference. Think of the future and not of now.
I absolutely agree. And sometimes I talk about long-term strategy on my Instagram, with my small audience. Because if you want to have a fast results, you might go to casino. Then you will find out how fast you're gonna lose. It's the same with Bitcoin. If you are buying Bitcoin and thinking to benefit right immediately, then you will lose. And so you couldn't put up this strategy in more perfect way. So I would stick to the long-term strategy, just like you said, 4 years, 10 years, 50 years, 100 years. You might ask me, why would you hold your Bitcoin for 100 years? Your generational wealth, you are building the future for your family and generations to come. So I completely agree. And in sports, we have this event every 4 years, which is Olympic Games. And we are going to have it this year in Paris. And in Bitcoin infrastructure, we have also an event every 4 years. And we are currently experiencing it right now. And so, Robin, what is halving and what it does for the coin holders? And is there anything different this time?
I mean, the main thing I think that was different about, like, let's first dive into what is Bitcoin halving actually. Bitcoin halving, the way Bitcoin is distributed is with miners. Like, miners of Bitcoin, they're doing two things. The one thing is validating transactions, and they're getting Bitcoin paid for that because when you transact in Bitcoin, you pay a fee, and this fee gets to the miners. And another thing they are getting paid is with new Bitcoin that come into the system, because we started with 0 Bitcoin, and now we are at 19 million something Bitcoin, and in the end of the day, at year 2140, we will be at 21 million Bitcoin. So when we have this Bitcoin halving, how is those Bitcoin distributed? Every 4 years, like, okay, it started with 50 Bitcoins per 10 minutes that gets distributed to every miner in the first 4 years from 2009 onwards. Then after that, it got halved in 25 Bitcoins per 10 minutes that gets distributed. Then so on and so forth, like 12 and a half, 6, stuff like that. And now we are at this point where the Bitcoin halving got halved again. It was like April, something like that. It was like a few weeks back. And because it's halves again and again and again, this halving is special because of two things. Because the first thing is the inflation rate is for the first time ever smaller than the inflation rate of gold. So gold is now no longer the scarcest asset of the world. Bitcoin is now the most scarce asset of the world officially. That's the most scarce asset of the world. It always was, in my opinion, but now it's officially because the inflation rate is lower than gold. Another thing that was different, I don't care about that too much, but it's interesting to look at. The Bitcoin price reached the all-time high for the first time ever before the halving, the before all-time high. So that could mean that the Bitcoin ETFs brought in a lot of new capital that usually was not there, and it could mean that this 4-year bull cycle that we are coming now is a huge bull cycle. It's a massive bull cycle with a huge upside potential. I heard everything from 100,000 to 1 million at the end of the cycle. I really don't care because I don't sell anyway, so I don't really have something from that. I will just keep stacking every month. So actually, my incentive is that the Bitcoin price stays low for as long as possible so I can stack as much as possible. That's actually my incentive. But a higher price also means there's a lot of drama and a lot of more eyeballs in the sphere, so more people will watch my podcast. So I'm also incentivized from higher price. So that's why I'm saying I don't care either way. Either way, if the Bitcoin price goes down, Bitcoin price goes up, I win either way. I love it either way. So that's the Bitcoin halving, and there's one more thing to the Bitcoin halving that I want to bring in here. There's a difficulty adjustment, and because Bitcoin itself is kind of like a time clock. It's a time clock because it regulates itself. When we have the Bitcoin that are now at every 10 minutes or so are giving out the rewards to the miners, we need a timing mechanism where we are saying that no matter how many miners come into the game or how many miners leave the mining game, we are staying with this 10 minutes around that time with this time system, because otherwise the mining hash rate could be achieved way sooner. We might have been already at 21 million without a difficulty adjustment. How does this work? If more Bitcoin miners come in, the difficulty of mining Bitcoin increases. Therefore, it's harder for them to mine Bitcoin. And every second week, the difficulty adjustment adjusts itself to the current mining hash rate. How difficult will it be to mine actually a Bitcoin? And so this is an amazing system, and the difficulty adjustment itself, it's worth studying and going really deep on, because it's such an amazing and groundbreaking technology for Bitcoin to work perfectly fine. So that's, I just wanted to add also in the halving sphere. That's, I think, in a broad scale, a quick overview. And with those keywords that I gave you and with those small introductions, you can dive deep into each topic, because we can talk like an hour or like 10 hours or like a week about the difficulty adjustment itself. But it's probably too long for that podcast.
Yes, it is. But you answered my question fully. And so, talking about Bitcoin, a lot of interesting things happened since the white paper published by Satoshi. And I wonder, how do you see the 15-year history of the Bitcoin? its evolution process, and what does the future looks like for this technology. Because we have, Bitcoin becoming an asset class in line with the financial authority, and all of those ETFs getting approved.
It's fascinating how far we have come, and it's fascinating how early we still are. Like that's the two things that I want to get across today with those 15 years, because we already have a nation state in Bitcoin. We already have publicly traded companies in Bitcoin. We already have a Bitcoin ETF. We already have over 100 million users in Bitcoin. We already today broke the 1 billion transaction limit. Like 1 billion transactions were performed on the Bitcoin blockchain. So a lot has happened. A lot has happened in the Bitcoin sphere. But that's just the beginning. So that's the learning from the past 15 years. Everybody thinks they are late, but you're not. You're early. If you're watching this video in 5 years, you're still early, because this is money, and money takes time to adopt. We are now at what, 5% adoption rate? I don't know. Some countries have 25, some countries have 2-3%, some countries have 50% adoption rate of Bitcoin. But the important thing is every country has an adoption rate on Bitcoin. Everybody at least heard about Bitcoin, and it's fascinating how far this idea of sound money, this idea of a better, more free world actually already has spread throughout history, throughout the 15 years of Bitcoin history. And that's for me one of the amazing parts of being in Bitcoin, because if this is just the beginning, and it is just the beginning, what else will we see? Like there are so many great things still happening. Imagine the first country being Bitcoin only, because they only have Bitcoin on their balance sheet and stuff like that. Imagine how far countries that adopt now Bitcoin will be in 10 years. There will be a Bitcoin hub. There will be Satoshi sculptures on the streets. There will be Bitcoin icons on the streets. It's really hard to wrap the head around what just happened in the last 15 years. Like we are now having the complete base layer set for the future of humanity, the future of Bitcoin. And that's the fascinating thing that I took away from it. On a personal level, you can also take a lot of things out there. Always be open to new technology. There's always something new going on. And if you don't learn about it, someone else will, and someone else will benefit, and you will get destroyed. If you don't adopt Bitcoin long term, you will get destroyed financially. And so that's basically also my personal learning. Be open about stuff. Question things. Ask, why are we using 2% inflation target? Why 2% theft every year from the central bank? Why are we doing the things? What is actually money? Like, why do I have to go to the bank and ask for a bank account? Why don't I just can open my bank account and can transact freely? Yes, you can. It's Bitcoin. So that's my two main learnings from those periods, and it was an amazing journey to be on. And I'm so glad and I'm so thankful the last 4 years, and I'm so excited already for the next 4, 8, 10, 20, 100 years in Bitcoin.
The future looks bright, because the Bitcoin have just become an asset class which competes with stocks, bonds, company equities, gold, and real estate officially. Up until January 11th, it was, a speculation, different kind of opinions, but the people who were studying Bitcoin, just like you said, they could anticipate the future and where is this going. And so I really wanted to go off topic a little bit. And you are living in one of the most beautiful nature countries in the world. And so I wanted to dive into that a little bit. because for some people it might be irrelevant, you know. What is the living standard in Austria, like monthly apartment rent, food, some of the utilities? And how would you describe an Austrian culture? Because Austria is definitely on my travel list. I have not been there yet, but I will definitely go.
100%, and you should definitely come. I will be soon in the center of Austria in Vienna. I will be soon located there. And how I describe Austria. Austria is a beautiful country. First of all, from the nature, it's really, really beautiful to see. There are mountains that are just amazing. You can hike on them. You can have a beautiful view, and it's just like in the pictures. If you open Instagram and say like Austria, beautiful mountains, it actually looks like that. It actually is beautiful here, and that's why we have also a lot of tourists the in some areas of Austria because it's just really beautiful. Um, there are high taxes, like you pay a lot of taxes if you're a normal employee. If you have a business, you have ways to avoid a lot of those taxes, and you pay only a small percent on the taxes, and you have a little bit more flexibility there. The living standard in Austria is quite high. I think Vienna was awarded the highest living standard in the world of a city because they have clean water, the great infrastructure, public transport is great. You have amazing greenery around Vienna. Vienna itself is a cool city to be in. Austria is a quite cool place, and Vienna is a quite cool place, but it's high tax, it's high bureaucracy. That's what I don't like about it, but it's highly developed also. So there's always a trade-off. Like the life is a massive trade-off. Whatever you're doing, you have to have a trade-off uh, from the uh, from the rent and how expensive it is. It obviously depends on how much you're willing to pay and how much you uh, how how good you want to live. You can get a student department for like $300 a month with a shared kitchen and a small 10 square meter room for yourself. You can obviously get houses really, really expensive. It depends also how close do you want to be in these beautiful areas with oceans and not oceans, lakes and mountains. There it's really, really expensive. But I think if you have a normal life somewhere around the city, not in the city center, you should aim for like 1,000 to 2,000 euros that you need for your basic needs if you're a single man and just want to live. If you have a family, obviously this is the more and more and more. And depends also when you need more space and stuff like that. But I feel like 2,000 euros for one person definitely will be enough. If you are two persons, you can save a little bit on rent because then you don't need such a huge place. So you can yeah, basically save a little bit on rent. So like if you pay 2,000 euros for yourself, you basically need maybe like 3,500 euros for two people. It depends on how you live. If you go a lot to restaurants, it's more. If you really are like cooking yourself a lot and have a low, like really a minimalist and frugal lifestyle, you could go with 1,000 to 1,500 euros, and maybe even be below that, but it will be difficult beyond that. And yeah, it's a beautiful country, and it's good. Austria, I think it has the fourth or third most fourth or third strongest passport. Like you can travel the most with that passport. Only a few, like Japan, I think is better off, and a few others are like better off. Similar than Germany, also the passport. So like it's definitely a really strong passport. It's also hard to get. I think you have to live like 10 years in the country to get the Austrian passport. Yeah, that's my short Austrian summary for you there.
How would you rank Bitcoin in Austria from the engineering perspective? Is it easy to buy? Is it on the mainstream? Do you have, Bitcoin ATMs and so forth?
We have Bitcoin ETMs. We have Bitcoin only companies. We have two Bitcoin only exchanges in Austria. One of them even provides Bitcoin ATMs around the country. So we are quite developed actually from a Bitcoin standpoint, but there are taxes on Bitcoin. That's why nobody spends it. Like there's 27.5% tax on every transaction you have to do with Bitcoin if you spend it or if you sell it. So that's something you to keep in mind that it's not tax free. It was tax free after 1 year of holding it, like a few years back. I don't know when exactly it was, but that's basically the standpoint on Bitcoin. Austria is also the home of Austrian economics, but the economics in Austria is nothing like Austrian economics. Just to make sure that the point gets across. And even in the economics universities, Austrian economics is not taught that much. Like Austrian economics is not taught in economics in Austria. So that's the thing. So Bitcoin is presented there, but it could be stronger. Obviously, Austrians are Austrians are freedom loving and chill people usually, but they can like bureaucracy is still big here.
Yeah, it takes times, all of the new technologies that are being introduced to humanity. It always takes time, to adopt. Like the color TV took 30 years, and so to get a Visa plastic card to each and every individual, it took about 50 years. So I think that we are in the infancy state of the Bitcoin, and the people who are already in this technology will benefit the most. And so, coming back to the education question, I am a very big proponent, as I said, about the education outside the system. And so, I really wanted to ask you, what is the best book you have ever read or listened? Or if there was any person who shaped your life in the most significant way?
I really liked the book from Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's one amazing book that influenced and started off my investing mindset more and more before I even got in touch with Bitcoin. Then there is obviously the Bitcoin standard. But I feel like if I had to pick one book and one author, I would go with Robert Kiyosaki because he just wrote such an amazing book that summarizes so many topics. But I really like the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Right now, I'm reading a lot of books on the topic of how to be a personal brand, how to be basically an educator and be most visible in this world. So I'm watching a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk and stuff like that. So yeah, there's always phases in life. Like in different phases in life, you have to watch and listen to different people to get a sense for the next step you can do, and the next level up you can make. And you have to decentralize your education. Like if you think that the education you get in school, you think the education you get anywhere from like a third party, basically from the state or something like that, it's not good. Like there's maybe you get to know a little bit about math and a little bit how to write sentences and stuff like that, but you need to educate yourself. Like you have to take self responsibility for your education. You really have to take up some books like Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad, The Bitcoin Standard, and so many more books, and dive deep into topics. figure out, okay, how can I level up my skills? How can I level up my store of value with Bitcoin? How can I succeed in life with those endeavors? And that's something that I'm really passionate about, and getting across the point. It's about education. Once we have full education, once we have people that are they want to educate themselves on the evenings instead of watching Netflix, on the weekends instead of drinking alcohol, then we are coming to a society where we can actually really go ahead and be a great human civilization.
Every successful person tends to work hard. And boy, oh boy, you are working hard, cooking all of these videos, making all of these interviews. So, Robin, why are you doing what you're doing?
That's a great question that I ask myself a lot, also because I could do half of what I do and would also be living just fine, I guess. And then there's also the question like, why are people like Elon Musk still working that much? They have so much money. They definitely don't do it for the money. And I also start not doing it for the money, but I'm just like in my infancies, like I'm really like starting just out right now. There's something in me that really drives me. There's something in me where I'm like insecure about where I am right now, and I want to be bigger. And this was always in me, and I cannot really describe it what it is. It's like and drive for it's not enough. No matter what I do, it's not enough. I have complete time and location freedom. I can work from wherever I want. I have complete time freedom. I can work whenever I want. I even have a kind of a financial freedom because of my savings and because of my frugal being and my hard work. I could afford to live off my savings for a few years. Would be hard to distinguish exactly how many years, but a few years I could just do nothing and be fine with it. And then we come to the point, okay, I have full freedom about my life, but I still work 10 hours a day, every day, Sunday, Saturday. When I'm sick, I'm working when I'm sick. I'm working when there is a national holiday in Austria. I'm working when everybody is at a birthday party. I'm working whenever I can, and I'm rarely taking a break off. Why do I do that? Why? I don't get it. So that's the main question that I'm also asking myself. But there's this really hard drive in myself that I want to do something for my family. I want to do something for my community. I want to be there for them if they really need to be, if they really need me. So that's something that I'm really passionate about, being there for someone else and serving the community and serving others. And there are so many things that I still want to achieve. And the main thing, and that ties back to freedom, I want to be as free as possible. And what is freedom? Freedom is the possibility to say yes and no to everyone, everybody, and any institution do you want. Like if I want to say like, oh, I want to go now for coffee, I can do that. If, oh, I want to work the next 5 hours, I can do that. Hey, I want to drive today with my car to Italy, I can actually do that. I don't have to ask a boss, hey, can I take tomorrow off? I don't have to ask anyone. I can just do it. It's permissionless. It's like Bitcoin. And I like to have total freedom of my life, which I am not 100% there, but I'm getting closer and closer there. And this is basically what I really try to achieve, have total freedom from me, my family, my loved ones, and my community.
I would really like to use some time and really thank you for what you are doing because you are making a world a better place to live by providing all this great knowledge and value to the people. Because as you know yourself, Bitcoin is a big rabbit hole. And once you start to study Bitcoin, you are starting to study everything. And so you are doing an amazing job with all of these bright minds from the space. And also, thank you so much for your time and effort leading up to this video. For the people who will be watching this episode, Robin have helped me with the setup software. And, he was a major driver for my own journey on this platform. So, Robin, thank you so much. And where can people find more about you?
People can find more about me on Twitter and YouTube. Both platforms are reachable with Robin Seyr, Seyr. You can probably put it in the two links in the description, and people can easily find those things. But yeah, if you just Google my name, Robin and Seyr, you can find me on almost any platform. I'm on Spotify, I'm on YouTube, I'm on Twitter. The best way to watch my podcast, I think, is YouTube. There I interact a lot. There you can even be a channel member and stuff like that. If you have a direct a question to me that you don't want to give to everybody, so you want to DM me directly, you can get to my Twitter. My DMs are open for everybody. Like, I don't have to follow you, so you can. I don't have to follow you in order that you can ask me, DM me. That's how Mantas and I got in touch in the first place. So everybody can DM me, and I will read all DMs, and I will answer all DMs that are genuine and don't want to sell me stuff. That's basically my thing. Like, if you have a question, if you have an idea, if you want to do something, let's just reach out. And I have also a lot of Bitcoiners on my podcast that are really new. So if you want to be in a podcast, like, even reach out to me there and just send me your story. And I would love to have you also on my podcast. I will also have Mantas on my podcast. I'm already looking forward to having him on. And yeah, perfect. And let's wrap it up. And thank you for having me on. And thank you for taking the time, Mantas.
Thank you so much, Robin. Until the next time. And also, for the people who watch this episode, consider subscribing if you find the value from this video. And I would also incentivize you to go on to Robin's YouTube channel and subscribe, because he is doing an amazing job on the Bitcoin space, and you will definitely get a lot of value from that. So thank you so much for being here. Take care. Bye-bye.